Oh God. Ugh, why are there people here? Why did I decide that I was going to go live? Hey, 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 hey. What the fuck is a kilometer? I have no idea. I don't think anyone does. Why'd you decide that? I don't know, you tell me. I'm um I'm playing host right now for my brother, and he's cooler than me, so I have to really, commit to hosting. This morning we did a hike. It was great. Very steep hike, like very it was short but very like steep incline, sort of the hiking equivalent of a chode. And we had a great time, very tiring, legs sore, got back, had some greasy food. I'm fucking pooped. I'm fucking pooped. Oh, I'm tired. I'm tired and I had greasy food. And I've had alcohol every day for the past 3 days. And I don't normally drink at all. I'm pooped. Not stream fit. No, I only have a little bit of time. The only reason um the only reason I'm here right now is because my brother's busy for a bit. Why go live at 10:30 p.m. Eastern then? Were you listening to me? Because this is the time that I had. Oh my God. What do you want from me? I'm not reading donos today. That's just a forewarning. Oh, I thought it was because something drastic happened. Well, something pretty drastic did happen. Okay. Jeez. Hold on. Where are the links? Where are the links? Oh, happy birthday, Beatdown Saturn. Happy birthday. All right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it. You can't stop me. Fuck, where is it? Oh my God, there's so much. Okay. I want to talk to you guys about the saga of Donald Trump and Greenland and the Nobel Peace Prize that he should have gotten, that Obama got instead. I'm listen, the only way to go through this is like a lazy train of consciousness because that's the way that Trump goes through everything. The past 48 hours have been an actual like if the Pentagon was going to do a coup, now is the time to do it. You know? Like that's the up until about 7, 8 hours ago, I would say, like, I guarantee you that somebody on the Joint Chiefs of Staff had their finger hovering over the red button, you know? Really, really, really close, though. So it starts with this, if I may. Thank you. Happy that popped in. All right. The Air Force One swap out was the perfect time. Yeah. Okay, okay, okay. So hold on, okay? So Trump issued this letter right here to Denmark. You've all seen it, I know. I'm sorry, I can't be here every day. Dear Jonas, considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. Denmark cannot protect that land from Russia or China, and why do they have a right of ownership anyway? There are no written documents. It's only that a boat landed there hundreds of years ago. But we had boats landing there also. I have done more for NATO than any other person since its founding. This was to Norway, not Denmark? Okay, I'm sorry. Fascinating. Anyway. Now NATO should do something for the United States. The world is not secure unless we have complete and total control of Greenland. Thank you. So obviously Trump's upset he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. I think this upsetness is legitimate. I think he's actually like really ass mad about it. I don't think it's a bit. I genuinely think that he thinks that he stopped 8 wars. By the way, it's about Greenland, not Iceland. Yeah, no. It's impossible to keep. So anyway, this is insane. So obviously the political leadership in Norway do not decide who gets the Nobel Peace Prize, right? The foundation that awards Nobel Peace Prizes is independent. It's not government run, like the Prime Minister of Norway or President. I genuinely don't know which it is. Neither of them, if there are two, decides who gets the Nobel Peace Prize. But he has consistently said that in conversations with Donald Trump, Trump has essentially asked him for the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, when he and Trump meet as foreign dignitaries to discuss matters of state, Trump continues to beleaguer him, asking for one. This is real. Anyway, having not received the Nobel Peace Prize, America is now committed to war. This was sent out on the eve of the World Economic Forum, where the deep state leaders get together and talk about the new world order that they want to build on top of a graveyard of our own corpses. And here was the tone taken. By the way, like every single clip that I've seen, and there's some clips of Trump later. We'll get to the Trump clips later. But like, America has never been. America is a fucking pariah state right now. Okay, I'm sorry. I feel I'm like self-conscious of the fact that I'm really tired, so I'm gonna give like the worst explanation of this. Trump's insane. The World Economic Forum. Okay, Trump was not there the first day at the WEF, and some of his dignitaries were there instead.
Can I bring you back to Greenland?
No. It's unnecessary. It's the Western Hemisphere is vital for the United States of America. Our national security people are on it, and they care about it, and I'm going to leave it to them to address with our allies, with our friends, and with everyone how they work it out. But the Western Hemisphere matters to the United States of America, and the United States of America, as I've just articulated, really, really matters to the world. When America shines, the world shines, because they all need to make sure America is strong and powerful to take care of them, God forbid. And so I think America and the Western Hemisphere are vital to America, and I'm going to leave that to my national security people to address.
Again, this is the World Economic Forum. This might sound a little bit deep statey or conspiratorial, but the number one rule with political tomfoolery is you don't fuck with the money, right? You can be an idiot at the United Nations all you want. You can waste everyone's time. You can stand up and put forward big declarations about how it's a new age and et cetera, but you don't fuck with the money. This is the money conference, all right? So the shift from America being crazy domestically and in the context of like international politics to us being international pariahs at the WEF is insane. As always, no acolyte of Trump can defy anything that he said, because the American deep state, right, the corporatocracy that we all live under, uses his insanity as a cover to advance their own agenda. Like defying Trump is a total no-no. WEF? I'm tired. What do you think? I'm referring to some other thing that starts with W and E? If I said WEC, I meant WEF. Shut up. You know what the fuck I mean. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Anyway, WWE. You put WEC in the title? I was tired when I made the title too. Do you think I was more rested 1 hour ago? I'm really tired. Okay, I've just been running around all day. I don't drink normally. I had drinks earlier. Take a Snickers. You know what I had for the first time earlier today? The Dubai chocolate. Not La Bubu. I'm sorry to say. Sucks about the naming convention. I know they're just trying to pump up tourism to Dubai. It's literally just chocolate with like pistachio paste inside. It's really good. I mean, obviously. With matcha? No, there was no matcha. I'm sorry. I'm not a big matcha guy. It tastes like fat grass, fatty grass to me. Is it not quite expensive? We got a bag of it at Costco. So probably not. I don't remember the price. Probably fine. Okay, anyway.
Right.
You like that reception? Hold on.
Security people to address.
Right. The rest of us, I think, are finding it harder to make that kind of separation clearly.
Phenomenal. Right. So this was from the first day at the World Economic Forum. Anytime America comes up, anytime Greenland comes up, you know how it goes. You expect how it goes. Meanwhile, over here in the good old US of A, all right, Donald Trump is actually losing his fucking mind. He's gone. He's fucking gone, okay? So while his guys are over there in the center of the earth at the Deep State Conference, all right? Here, hold on. I've got two clips for you. Again, we're lazy covering this, okay? We're not watching the whole thing. You can watch the whole thing if you want. It's legal to watch the whole thing. It's not copyright. I'm watching this.
So looking back here at home domestically, last year you worked with Congress very closely, Republicans in charge of both the House and the Senate, and of course you're in the White House, and you worked with them on the big, beautiful bill. For 2026, especially in a midterm election year, what is your goal for Congress in terms of getting your agenda through? What is on the agenda? What expectations do you have for Congress?
Well, one of the things I'd like to do, we pass so many executive orders. I have great executive orders that are really common sense and good and like water coming out of a sink. The water wouldn't come out. They had all sorts of ridiculous restrictions. I took all of that off. Coming out of the shower head, you'd stand under a shower, there's no water coming out. So I passed so many things like that, straws. They don't have to be paper anymore. They don't have to melt in your mouth. So I passed so many different things like that, and much more important things, but like that. They're important, the quality of life. And I'd like to have all of that confirmed by Congress if we can. And we've done a lot of it. We've done probably...
That's my favorite part of it, when he brings it back around at the end, like he's wrapping a bow on the series of points he just delivered,
35-40%. I'd like to get them all confirmed, every one of them.
So you want your executive orders codified in law, so to speak?
Ideally, we get them codified, and we get them codified soon, yes.
All right. This one's quite beautiful. I assume you've seen this one. Have you not? Maybe I don't know why I'm asking this. Maybe you haven't seen it. This one's quite beautiful. Okay.
We had in my area in Queens, I grew up in Queens, we had a place called Creedmoor. Creedmoor, did anybody know that? Creedmoor. It was I said, Mom, why are those bars on the building? I used to play Little League Baseball there at a place called Cunningham Park. He was quite the baseball player, you wouldn't believe. But I said to my mother, Mom, she would be there, always there for me. She said, son, you could be a professional baseball player. I said, thanks, Mom. I said, why are those bars on the windows? Big building, big, powerful building. It loomed over the park, actually. She said, well, people that are very sick are in that building. I said, boy, I used to always look at that building and I'd see this big building, big, tall building. It loomed over the park. It was sort of, now that I think it was a pretty unfriendly sight. But I'll never forget, I don't know if it's still there, because they got rid of most of them, the Democrats in New York, they took them down, and the people live on the streets now. That's why you have a lot of the people in California and other places, they live in the streets. They took the mental institutions down. They're expensive. But I'd say, why does that building have those bars? Boy, it wasn't normal. You're used to looking at like a window. But this one, you look at it, all this steel, vicious steel, tiny windows, bars all over the place. Nobody was getting out. It's called a mental institution. That was an insane asylum. Designated Antifa as...
That that one's a freebie for the biopic, you know? I mean, that's it. Yeah. I understand. I've said this before. Part of being a live streamer is repeating yourself. Here's the game plan, and this is why the deep state loves Trump. Okay, Trump is authentically a lunatic. A lot of that is age. A lot of that is also being a megalomaniac. Right? Those are the two big ones. And as a consequence, he's very, very, very manipulable, which means that the corporatocracy, the oligarchy, they can put people around him, you know, like J.D. Vance via Peter Thiel, you know, that kind of deal, and suggest things to him, and he will get really hooked on an idea, and he will defend it to the end of his days, and his idiocy gives cover to the corporate agendas being advanced, right? So, for instance, like this Greenland bit, this Greenland thing is being advanced by a number of interests, right? So you have the, like, insane doomsday prepper oligarchs who want to build an anarchist, or sorry, not an anarchist, anarcho-capitalist freedom city on Greenland as like a final like temple of humanity as the rest of us die in the climate wars, basically, you know, where they rule supreme and they can enact prima noctis upon everyone's daughters, or in Peter Thiel's case, their sons. And then you have like the more like banal corporate types who, you know, they want the mineral rights and they want the oil rights and so on. They just want to extract from Greenland, because Greenland's, it's not as big as the Mercator projection would suggest, but Greenland's quite large and there's plenty of stuff there you could take if you wanted. So for those people, right, like the idea under a normal presidency of seizing Greenland is unthinkable, but under Trump, anything is possible. So the point that I'm getting at here is that I think that as Trump gets more deranged, and make no mistake, he is slipping very fast. It's not just the strokes, okay? The strokes are part of it, but like legitimately with each passing day, and this is very noticeable if you bother to watch these press conferences or talking to the media, he is declining. And as he gets crazier, they will try to get more and more through him. You know what I mean? It's like the window is closing. He is their opportunity. No one else, not even another Republican, is going to have the same like mad impressionability that Trump has. It's unique to him. So anyway, he's deranged, he's mentally ill, he's losing it, he's cooked, etc., etc. No spoilers, Miss Aigu. No spoilers, okay? No spoilers, thank you. In Japan, they don't have the concept of spoilers. It's called nagatiwa, and they just think it's honorable of you to see if things turn out. Shut up.
We had in my area in Queens. I grew up in Queens. We had a place called Creed.
Sorry, I hit the space bar. Spoilers, Japan. Sorry. Anyway, Trump had fun, as he always does, and then he headed out to the World Economic Forum to speak at the second day of the conference. And funnily enough, a bunch of people speculated that he had died because Air Force One turned around shortly after leaving American airspace. It wasn't anything. It was just an electrical issue on Air Force One. Trump was transferred to a different plane. Not interesting, but it did fuel speculation, which was really funny. Trump made it to the World Economic Forum, and genuinely, I will go over his speech in its entirety when I have time. Okay? Here's like a key snippet of it, okay? He called Greenland Iceland at least 4 times. He also said if it wasn't for us, he'd all be speaking German right now in Switzerland, where they speak German.
No, we'd be there for them. I don't know that they'd be there for us. So with all of the money we expend, with all of the blood, sweat, and tears, I don't know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland.
That one's really important, by the way. In response to, in my opinion, in response to Trump's Norway letter, where he essentially said, if you will not give me the Nobel Peace Prize, then you will award me the Nobel War Prize. The stock market actually did take a dip as a bunch of people went, holy shit, really? Holy fuck. Wait, actually? US 10-year Treasury yield spiked as a bunch of people decided very, very quickly that US Treasury bonds were not a worthwhile asset.
So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money. But that dip is peanuts compared to what it's gone up. And we have an unbelievable future in that stock. That stock market is going to be doubled. We're going to hit 50,000, and that stock market's going to double in a relatively short period of time because of everything that's happening. But there's
also, in addition to, I guess, everything else on the table, for the most part, his speech was just, I mean, it's a Trump speech. He's talking about how he's the best, but it really just reaffirms the idea that there's no holds on him. Like, as much as the deep state is profiting from his lunacy, there's nobody around him who's actually capable of reining him in, because even at the World Economic Forum,
$19 billion in fraud that was stolen by Somalian bandits. Can you believe that Somalia, they turned out to be higher IQ than we thought. I always say these are low IQ people. How did they go into Minnesota and steal all that money? And we have, you know, they're pirates, they're good pirates, right? But we shoot them out of the water just like we shoot the drug boats out. They're not pirating too many boats lately, do you notice?
So it was, a lot of it was like that. Oh, somebody linked this. I did think this was funny. As always, people around Trump can only defend Trump. There is no alternative to them. Absolutely none. So Carolyn Levitt, in response to Trump mixing up Greenland and Iceland a bunch, for some reason decided to like bring attention to it by lying and saying that he didn't. Like, I don't know why you would put your feet down on this one. You could just ignore it or hope people aren't paying attention, but now you're making people pay more attention to it. That's what this video was in response to. This is precisely what I meant. They're so afraid of him being brain dead that they're Streisanding. I just think they're all aware of the fact that Trump is really, really, really sensitive to the perception of being betrayed. Like, Trump is very ego conscious. Trump is very afraid of his inner circle betraying him the way that, you know, they did back from 2017 to 2021. So as a consequence, I think they all know, like, if they're the first one to speak up, Trump is going to obliterate them, and then they won't be able to run the grift anymore. So everyone's afraid to speak up. It is literally the classic European water-brained incest child nobility Mad King story, where you have like 500 consulates and advisors and viziers or whatever the fuck who are all there at the dinner table listening to the one Mad King dribble on. And everyone there is thinking, one of us, but not me, should run up there and stab him. Every one of them, like 500 people in the dining hall, every single one of them is thinking it, including the guards. The captain of the guard is standing there being like, could I get away with it if I did? No. Everyone else there would stop me. And every individual guard is thinking, could I get away with it if I did? No, the rest of them would stop. Literally, like, many such cases in history, it's happening right now. All of them are, and they know, like, obviously they could be thinking that all they want, but if the king, you know, gestures at one of you with his turkey leg and he goes, do you agree? Like, you have to be like, oh my God, yes, your majesty. Like, you can't, there's no, you can't half-ass it, because if you ever show like even a little bit of doubt, he'll have you beheaded, right? It's, Mike Johnson did the same thing today, of course. Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
This time, I'm so sorry. To not getting involved in Greenland, you released that text to the Norwegian Prime Minister. Is it appropriate for him to do that?
I think that misportrays what he was doing there. So
What was he trying to do?
You have to ask him.
He was criticizing them for not giving the Nobel Peace Prize.
Well, look, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people
that
that criticize them for making a political decision and not awarding the Nobel Peace Prize to probably the most deserving individual in the history of the prize.
But normally the country doesn't have anything to do with that.
8 to 10 wars and conflicts have been resolved by President Trump.
8 to 10.
That's enough.
But the Prime Minister has nothing to do with that.
No, but it is his country, and he has a lot of influence.
It's so cool how we literally don't have Congress. Johnson is the biggest cuck of this admin. His entire role is to do nothing. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. If your goal is executive branch supremacy, it makes sense you would want to effectively neuter Congress. The thing that I don't get, like, I think I have the answer. It's just unsatisfying. What is their end game? And the answer, I think, is they don't. Maybe that's the reason why Gavin Newsom feels so confident pushing himself forward, even though he's very obviously like a believe-in-nothing grifter, because he knows the Republican Party is going to be desperate for some kind of corporate-friendly savior after this whole thing collapses in on itself. Sorry for repeating, but I think it's also funny that he leaked a message from the president of France regarding Greenland. Yes. Continuing on with the, like, genuine insanity, Donald Trump was sent a text from President Macron, just texting him. I mean, you can do that, I guess. You know, they're both presidents. He immediately tweeted it on Truth Social. From President Macron to President Trump. My friend, we are totally in line on Syria. We can do great things in Iran. I do not understand what you're doing in Greenland. Let us try to build great things. Which, on one hand, this is very funny. On the other hand, it's like really, really sad that Trump is actually an insane, like threat to the world madman. And the best strategy that people still have is like sucking up to him. Like, obviously, Macron thinks he's a madman. Everyone thinks he's a madman. There is no world leader anywhere that doesn't think Trump is a madman, except for Trump. They're all just like, they think this is the best way to work with him, which maybe in the short term. Does Macron hate Iran? Macron is as much a stooge of Western empire. Yes, of course. Macron would have the Shah replace, the prince replace the Ayatollah if he could. Carney speech? Oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Let us have a dinner together in Paris together on Thursday before you go back to the US, Emmanuel. Just immediately tweeting it. It's easy to play chicken with Trump if you know he's not going to swerve. Speaking of not swerving, so there was an outcome to all of this. We'll go over the Trump World Economic Forum speech at some point in the future, but I'm happy to report the European deep state did get to him. I have a feeling this was like a behind-the-scenes NATO deal because there are very powerful people that do not want NATO to blow up. I'm happy to announce, at least for the moment, that Donald Trump is dropping the Greenland bullshit. He and some others, who he won't specify, have come to an unspecified deal with unspecified terms that will not involve tariffing European countries who do not support acquisition of Greenland, and apparently do not involve acquisition of Greenland in any way, shape, or form, and, if anything, seem only to reaffirm existing military treaties that have been around for more than half a century. Here, look at him confidently explain the details of this plan shortly after it was made.
Getting back a lot of some of the nervousness we had in the last couple of days. The tariffs are off. Nothing happens on February 1st.
No, we took that off because it looks like we have pretty much a concept of a deal.
A deal of ownership, a deal...
Well, it's a little bit complex, but we'll explain it down the line. But the Secretary General of NATO and I and some other people were talking, and it's the kind of a deal that I wanted to be able to make.
Where does Denmark, did they weigh in on what they want, what they would agree to?
Well, I assume they did because he very much represents, he's a strong leader. Mark, you know Mark Rutte. And he, I assume he's been speaking to them. He's been speaking to all of them.
Are mineral rights involved? Is ownership involved? Did the Golden Dome sway people?
I don't want to say yet, but...
The Golden Dome was very compelling today when you talked about that.
Yeah, the Golden Dome, and they're going to be involved in the Golden Dome. and they're going to be involved in mineral rights, and so are we.
So there is no deal. This is like a big win for the nothing ever happens people, but I would like to add a caution. Okay, I'd like to add like a precautionary note, a little appendix, an added item, if I may. I think the past 48 hours have genuinely been, not appendix, not appendix, what's it called? Asterisk. I'm sorry, I'm so tired. I'm so tired, boy. Asterisk, thank you. Footnote, whatever you prefer, you freaks. Appendix. You could see like how an appendix is related a little, right? Like like a little bit at the end, right? Like an appendix. I'm gonna add a little bit at the end. Bro, just keep going. Bro, you're losing subscriber. Okay. Um, I think that the deep state locked in over the last 48 hours, parentheses positive. I think that Trump's Norway letter, followed by the genuine, like, incoherent press conference that went for more than 2 hours, by the way. It was long. Followed by the speech at the World Economic Forum. Like, I think that a lot of people, probably behind the scenes, shifted from he's crazy, but we can weather this, to something needs to be done immediately or this is all going to blow up. I really do believe that. Again, like the old rule is don't fuck with the money. The problem is that a lot of the money people themselves nowadays like fucking with the money. Like Elon Musk likes fucking with the money. Elon with Doge, fucking around with the federal government, literally like touching the treasury, like poking the fucking divine stream of wealth that pours out in the abstract conceptual sense from the treasury. So a lot of the money people now do also like touching the money, but there are still some rules here. Some, I don't really know. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's really, really bad. I'm glad that they backed off, or made him back off. He got asked about the deal a second time. It sounds even less serious. Oh, sure. Follow it up with more. Yeah, it's not like I had time to clip gather. Please, please.
Does it still include you? Does it still include the United States having ownership of Greenland like you've said you wanted?
It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
How long is it, Mr. President?
Spoken to other European leaders?
What?
Have you really spoken to other European leaders?
Yes, I have.
How long would the deal be, Mr. President?
Infinite.
Will there speak to Denmark?
There is no time limit. It's forever.
And how would you ratify the deal?
Money involved.
It's signed forever.
But you haven't signed anything yet, right?
It's a deal that's forever.
Will there be an effect anyway?
It is.
Will there be an
No
effect?
money.
Why can't I pause it?
People, what happens is
Why I can't pause it?
people are out
I
there.
can't pause the video by clicking on it. Okay, I'll refresh the page, I guess. Elon.
Does it still?
Elon. Close the tab. I mean, yeah, I could close the tab. I'm just the website broke. Divine mandate. Keep watching. Do not turn the page. You know what? Sure. Okay. Divine mandate tells me to finish the clip.
What happens is people are out there and they're working it right now. They're working the details of the deal, but it's what's called an infinite deal. It's forever.
You talked about.
Wonderful. Yeah, like all jokes aside, the near infinite malleability of Trump's mind is genuinely scary. I really do not think that there has ever been a leader this crazy in the modern world. Because in any less developed country, or any country where there were more stakes to an election, somebody this crazy would be replaced, you know? Like, I think that there are lots of leaders out there that feign being crazy, or they have like idiosyncrasies that get played up to an extent, sometimes on purpose, sometimes not on purpose. But like, this is really unique. And yeah, I really don't, I don't know. Certainly no one's ever been this crazy and this powerful. I mean, but that's obvious. It's, you know, it's the president of the United States of America. Holy shit, it's actually just the 1951 deal with 2026 in it? Yeah. I mean, nothing ever happens. My position that this was a wake-up call for people is not entirely speculation. Somebody else at the World Economic Forum made a similar point. Just a second. Separate segment. Let me title this. Carney speech? Yeah. If you haven't seen anything else, you've probably seen this at least. Again, I don't have time to go over the whole thing. The editors are starving. The editors are doing fine. You've probably seen this. And you've probably seen a lot of lefties gloating over it, which I think is completely legitimate. You know, I think they have every right to. So Mark Carney is an interesting guy. I don't think he's a good person. What he's not, though, at least primarily, is a politician. You know, the job of a politician, at least in the modern Western world, is to find a way to convince the voters that you are doing things in their interest while facilitating the interests of the people who got you elected, or at the very least, the people who keep the country running. He's a banker and a technocrat, so sometimes his political instincts err differently than others might, you know? I don't think he's necessarily much more liberal than fucking Trudeau or whatever, right? It's not really about how left he is. It's more like a matter of pragmatism, honesty, maybe? Here.
We knew the story of the international rules-based order was partially false. That the strongest would exempt themselves when convenient, that trade rules were enforced asymmetrically. And we knew that international law applied with varying rigor depending on the identity of the accused or the victim.
Oh my God, he admitted? I mean, I feel like hearing this said out loud might not hit that hard if you've mostly been into politics post-Bernie, like 2016. But, sorry, I'm not trying to, like, belittle you or anything. It's just that if you are an internet lefty, what he just said is obvious and always has been. But this is never acknowledged by Western leaders, ever. The idea that the international rules-based order is and always has been kind of fake, you know, partial, you know, privileged, that it's not been like a fair arbiter of justice. Again, everyone knows this, at least everyone serious, but they would never, ever, 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 ever admit it. So hearing it out loud at the World Economic Forum, and by the way, I don't actually remember if it's included in this clip, but his speech, his broader speech, was met with tremendous applause. This was something, you know, he was finding a lot of agreement in the audience, you know, but he got a standing ovation after speech. Thank you for confirming what I said. Yes, no, people like his speech, which, again, the idea of the ghouls at the World Economic Forum giving a standing ovation to the idea that the underlying geopolitical principle that has legitimized their rule over the world for the past 80 or so years. Very odd.
This fiction was useful. And American hegemony in particular helped provide public goods, open sea lanes, a stable financial system, collective security, and support for frameworks for resolving disputes. So we placed the sign in the window. We participated in the rituals, and we largely avoided
the rituals. Man, it's so honest. The thing that pisses me off, though, is that, like, this position is radical enough in the zeitgeist that, I mean, like, mainline Democrats would disagree with this, or at least they would if you mentioned it in the context of Israel, right? What Mark Carney is essentially saying is that the rules have always been unfair, but the belief that they are fair, the shared myth that the rules are fair, allowed a convenient and stable world order to reign, one that has been enormously profitable for basically everyone who's been able to get in on it. From the fact that the seas are safe to travel on, which was not the case historically and may not necessarily be the case in the future, The fact that you have like standardized international shipping and trade for like basically every country in the world. It is a modern miracle that a ship docked at basically any port on Earth can set sail and then land at basically any port on Earth, that people can trade that freely, that due to the standardization of currency, due to the standardization of the rules of trade, we have like set standards that allow like basically everywhere on Earth, right? Like not North Korea or whatever, but besides a couple of exceptions, it's a miraculous time. You know, we've all kind of taken it for granted. I think Mark Carney's, well, I mean, as he's about to say, it's over.
Calling out the gaps between rhetoric and reality. This bargain no longer works. Let me be direct. We are in the midst of a rupture, not a transition. Over the past 2 decades, a series of crises in finance, health, energy, and geopolitics have laid bare the risks of extreme global integration. But more recently, great powers have begun using economic integration as weapons. Tariffs as leverage, financial infrastructure as coercion, supply chains as vulnerabilities to be exploited.
Fuck, dude, this is very unliberal. You are correct. This is post-liberal. This is illiberal in like the strictest sense, because what he's essentially saying is that the dream of globalization, of trade, of the shared political infrastructure that allows global trade to function the way it does, is now being weaponized in a way that makes it undesirable. And yes, admittedly, it is pretty fucked that the United States can get basically anything it wants by threatening tariffs to any country, anywhere, even if, like, that country shouldn't rely on them. You know? Like, pardon me for taking a medieval attitude towards international trade, but if a country is capable of producing its own food and building its own, you know, infrastructure and getting its doodads and widgets from itself or its neighboring countries, why the fuck would a tariff from America hurt it so badly? Like, what are you hurting? Sure, there's international trade, but a lot of it is also the global financial scheme, right? The over-liberalization of global trade and the financialization of the economy, which he's also referring to here, plus the fact, yes, that we all rely on the US dollar, means that even if a country makes an effort at independence, at the end of the day, everyone has to bend the knee to the United States. And he's right. We all talk about, well, oh, the US dollar's going down, haha, Trump's ruining America. Dog, he's ruining like the world. The 2008 financial crisis was caused entirely by subprime mortgage loan gambling from American banks. The world suffered the consequences. Every country. I don't know if North Korea did or not. I'm sure they were affected in some way. Like, it's like, how do I put this? You know how it's a miracle that Amazon can get an order to you within 24 hours, but then the Suez Canal gets blocked by the Evergreen, and all of a sudden, like, the global shipping, like, everything grinds to a halt, and every second that passes without it being blocked or, like, cleared, it's like you lose $50 billion or whatever. By streamlining the global trade system, the order for international trade to the, like, tightest and most cost-efficient possible point, any rupture in that system causes enormous disruption, you know? Rather than building robust systems that function and have like fail-safes and backups, you build like stuff that's meant to operate on the bleeding edge, which is great, by the way. What Amazon does right now is genuinely miraculous. The distribution system that they offer the world is unparalleled in human history and might be unparalleled in all history, in the past or the future, because there is a fundamental instability to this kind of order, you know? It goes beyond just like, well, is it bad for the environment? Is it bad for labor conditions? Yes and yes, okay? But the relegation to efficiency often places your systems in the command of central authorities that do not always have your best interests in mind. It was efficient to allow the United States to develop Pax Americana and secure global trade. It was efficient to use the US dollar as the international reserve currency, just as it's efficient to allow Amazon to basically determine the pace at which all packages and letters are delivered within the United States, you know? But who did we give the power to, you know?
You cannot live within the lie of mutual benefit through integration when integration becomes the source of your subordination.
Oh, the Ever Given, not the Evergreen. Ever Given operated by Evergreen Shipping. How confusing. How confusing. Carney also recently signed an agreement with China for direct currency exchange without USD as a middleman. Also exceptional, you know? Again, the whole point of USD as a reserve currency is that it's a global point of contact between different currencies. If you can exchange the Canadian dollar with Chinese yuan directly, I mean, that's to spite India? Well, you know, fuck them, sure. Thank God Carney took this shit seriously from the jump. At least from a financial perspective, Mark Carney has been sound in his response to America. Politically, I think that he could have done more. Anyway, sorry. This is really, really, really important, okay? Like, it is a shift in the zeitgeist that I don't think I've ever seen before. Not anything even remotely comparable. Certainly not in the World Economic Forum. The idea of a standing ovation being given to a speech that essentially calls for the deliberalization of the global trading order entirely in response to American hegemony. This isn't some broad criticism, right? Like, this is done directly in response to what America is and what he's done. And yes, thank you so much, V-Raptor, for pointing out something that I had so stupidly forgotten to mention. He wrote the speech himself. That is very uncommon, especially at the World Economic Forum, which is a very technocratic institution. You know, normally you have your policy guys write your speech, talk about your trade priorities for the coming year, whatever else. He wrote it himself. I feel like World Economic Forum types have been feeling like this ever since Trump got into power. I listened to Larry Fink talk about similar stuff earlier in 2025. It is a genuine schism. It really is, between the liberals who understand what Trump represents and the threat that he poses to the world economic order, and the people who think they can coast this. But there is still a deeper schism, and a more important one, in my opinion. Trump isn't the problem. Trump would be nothing without his army of corporate apologists and backers. They're the ones who want Trump to keep pushing the line because they don't give a shit. See, that's another consequence of the globalization of finance. Nowadays, with corporations, they don't really give a fuck if the country they're in suffers, you know? Like, let me put it this way. Ford, bad guy, wealthy guy. He built cars. He did a lot of stuff. We don't have to talk about all of it, okay? But here's something that's true. Ford would not have been happy if Americans suddenly stopped being able to buy his cars. If America had an economic downturn, if America suffered some catastrophic, one might call it a Great Depression, you know, the success of Ford's business is tied to the ability for people in the United States to buy his cars. It makes sense, right? That's how businesses ought to function. But nowadays, so much wealth is tied up in international financial schemes, right? It's all about, we've talked about, how many times have we talked about this before, right? It's not about building products or offering services. It's about borrowing money by leveraging your existing assets and then using the borrowed money to invest, and then using the gains from that investment to pay the interest on the money that you borrowed, and the additional money can be used as leverage to borrow more money, and the cycle continues. That process is international, you know? That's not like, you're not localized there. You can do that anywhere. And as a consequence of that, in many cases, the market does not actually have a direct, like, immediate incentive in the well-being of the country that they operate in, or the well-being of their population. You know? Like, I guess I'll put it this way. Nvidia's price, like their total shares, their market value right now, how much do you think that has to do with how many graphics cards they've sold recently? Like, the biggest jump they've gotten recently to their company's valuation came from a promise to, in the future, sell graphics cards to other AI development companies. Where in this exactly is the well-being of the United States? Like, where in this is we want the average American citizen to be able to afford graphics cards and buy them so that we make money? Nothing. It has nothing to do with any of that. Nobody has to sell anything. Nobody has to sell. Nobody has to build. And as a consequence, there's a disconnect. The incentives no longer exist. It used to be bad business to have the nation that you operate in torn apart and brought to ruin. But now that's not necessarily the case. The point here being, Trump isn't the problem. Trump is just the idiot they're pushing their agenda through. The underlying problems here are fundamental to the system, and not just the globalization of capital, but capital itself. I'm sorry, folks. I'm pulling the mask off. I am, in fact, still a socialist. This is the real schism, okay? As this sentiment, the stuff Mark Carney just said, gets more and more popular, liberals need to wake up. I'm sorry. I know it's an insufferable thing to say. Wake up, take the mask off, you're a sheep or whatever. I don't care, okay? You need to wake up on this, all right? The economic pressures that are driving Trump, okay, that admittedly are going farther with Trump than they've been able to with other people, but that does not mean they won't try for this with other people. God, look at what happened with the deregulation of Wall Street. Do you think they didn't know what they were doing? With the legalization of stock buybacks and the Dodd-Frank and the deregulation and the no prosecutions after the 2008 subprime mortgage crash, you know? Do you not think they know what they're doing? They know what they're doing, and they know they're going to keep getting away with it. They're aware of the fact that this is the goal now. It's not about buying and selling and the attribution of this and that or whatever else. It's about taking advantage of this global order that America, for the most part, has set up. We, through our hegemon, Pax Americana, through our money, through our dollar, for the most part, we are the superstructure that holds it together. That is the issue. But we're going to keep having recurring versions of this problem over and over and over and over and over again unless something more fundamental is done. I guess what I'm basically saying is we cannot relegate this to Trump bad, you know? I feel there's a risk there. Trump is a unique threat. In that way, he is doing the best possible thing for those oligarchs, isn't he? He's so boorish and so stupid and so crazy that it's easy to blame these problems on him rather than them, you know? Like, he draws so much attention to himself. So when everything falls apart, you know, oh my God, he's threatening to undo NATO, invade Greenland, whatever else. It's so easy to look at him and go like, well, yeah, Trump is the guy crazy enough. Listen, Trump is the guy crazy enough, okay? But 2008 happened under Bush. And Bush, economically, is not really far from where Democrats are today. Frankly, he's not that far from where Republicans are today, sans Trump. You know? Like, with the problems there, the deregulation of Wall Street, that is by no means like that was a one-and-done problem. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. I'm tired. I should be more punctual. Not punctual, with more brevity. Should be more pointed? Concise. That's an excellent word. Very good. Very good. Brevity is the soul of wit. Yes, and I am and always have been witless. Really couldn't wait until next morning? Next morning, Taven. I'll be busy. Can you explain all this to my family? That'd be great. Yeah, send them over. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's shocking. It's exceptional. Most of the coverage of this today didn't sell it as a watershed. Good point to see. I suppose so. There's also a lot to be said about the fact, like, I do think we can all pat ourselves in the back a bit. The idea of Okay, so now we're going to acknowledge that the rules-based international order was a hollow lie that was propped up by Western powers to justify the economic superstructure they profited from. Okay, lefties have been saying that for ages. Where the fuck is our medal? You know? Okay, hey, to everyone who's shocked by this, you know, now that it's been said, can the people who said it earlier get a little bit of credit? They're only just now admitting it. You know? Lefties need to get much more annoying about a lot of these issues. Yeah, it's like the Reddit atheists, right? Where it's like, no, you should be more annoying. Like right now, the official position of the White House is that America should be a white Christian ethno-state. I think Reddit atheists can be more annoying. I think they're allowed to be more annoying than they are right now, you know? It's really worth watching the whole speech. We will watch the whole speech. We just can't tonight because I'm really short on time. I actually don't even know if my time is up at this moment. But I'll check in a bit. I've got some stuff. I mean, Carney's been saying it since the 90s. He's been pushing for destroying the US dollar reserve for ages for this reason. Yeah, but what Carney needs to understand, Masaigu, is that it goes beyond just reliance on the United States. The problem with Carney is that the way he frames it, right? The issue is too much power has been ceded to America. But nothing would change, not in the long run, not meaningfully, if you know, you kept the same fundamentals in line, but you de-dollarized, right? It's not just a problem. Like, international capital will continue to find ways to homogenize the trading environment, you know? Even if nations won't do it, corporations will in their stead. And without nations managing the rules of those international trades, I think, if anything, things might get worse. The problem here isn't that we need the United States to shepherd those fraught waters. The problem here is that maybe fewer ships should be crossing those waters, you know? Like, maybe we need to rethink some things, that's all. All right, I need to write down the segment name. Serious question: how does Congress not impeach Trump in the next month? We don't have a Congress. Are you suggesting we unscramble the NAFTA egg? No, actually, I don't have as much. Okay, NAFTA has problems, of course, but this isn't really about NAFTA because my prescription here, in my opinion, the problem here is financialization. International trade works when one country has a bunch of wood and another country has a bunch of stone, and then they trade for each other, and then now they both have lots of both. That is fine. The problem is that when you have these obscenely wealthy international corporations, right, that operate everywhere, you know, maybe they're registered in America, but they can be registered anywhere, and the whole purpose is for them to siphon money out of economies and then just transfer them. A lot of them get held in the Cayman Islands, right? But a lot of them also just sit in the stock exchange, just enormous amounts of wealth doing nothing, right? Like the valuation of Nvidia at $50 bajillion or whatever the fuck it is, that isn't that's not like an abstract number. It represents the amount of money people have put in. That money's doing nothing right now. You know? It's just sitting there. These financial schemes are incredibly damaging. And the fact that they have been made international makes them more damaging, but making them not international wouldn't necessarily fix that problem. Like, the Great Depression happened before globalization. Can you explain the NVIDIA CEO being 100% okay with that California wealth tax? Genuine pointer here. For one, well, actually, I'll just say, I think the main reason is because he's a little bit smarter than some of his contemporaries, and he doesn't want to be actually he doesn't want to meet with the peasant mob. you know? Plus, I think he's actually rags to riches. Well, a lot of those Silicon Valley fucks are, you know, in some way or another. It's a PR firm thing. Also, it's one thing to say you're fine with it. It's another thing to be fine with it, right? Gavin Newsom said he would veto it, so... BlackRock CEO, capitalism must evolve. Hmm. 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 So you're against globalized modernity as we know it? What do you... I'm against the global financialization, but I'm against financialization in general. Also, I think for the most part, international trade exists to like skimp margins and drive the bar lower for every nation. Like my idea of how international trade should work is to an extent taking advantage of comparative advantage, right? Like if a country does something better, you know, and to shore up resource deficits in certain countries. Some countries just can't produce enough food, you know? They don't have the right land for it, whatever. Don't have enough of this, don't have enough of that. Sure, trade for it. I don't care, you know? But I think that like the reality of globalization, as we've all seen, has been fucking wretched, right? Like the half of Southeast Asia doesn't have rivers anymore because of all the fucking plastic and sewage sludge that's blocking them off at the mouth, you know? Legions of cheap bullshit dropship factories, they flood it's the death of authenticity, you know? As soon as you like your economy no longer has, or not just your economy, your politics no longer have control over every aspect of what's produced or distributed within your country, you basically like open the door to the bottom line falling. And there are ways to deal with this, certainly, but I think that like the promise of globalization, for the most part, has not been met. What we wanted was for life to become plentiful and inexpensive, which is what should have happened. But what actually happened was TV sets and stereos got really inexpensive because they were made in China. And to compensate for that, everything else got much more expensive. You know? Food to an extent, but cars, housing, healthcare? Where's the surplus value, man? Where the fuck is the extra 20% of your paycheck you get to stuff in a savings account every week, you know? We have a K-shaped economy. For some people, things are working out great, you know? And they're, by the way, they're the ones who are driving consumer spending right now. Unprecedented in history, in modern history, by the way, you know? It used to be the middle class did most of the consumer spending. They'd go to the mall, they'd shop. Now, no. Top 10%. Top 10%, those are the ones who are doing all the fucking consumer spending. So whenever you hear reports about how, wow, people bought a lot this Christmas, okay? That's not because people broadly did. That's because the top 10% all bought a Switch 2, to pick a completely random item. The middle class also driving consumer spending, but it's through consumer debt, so it doesn't really count. Yeah, it shouldn't really count if it's going through a fucking payment plan, you know? Shut up. Why do they want to make doomsday vaults, though? Don't they know it's better and more luxurious to not have the world destroyed? No, unfortunately, being that powerful rots your brain. It's not avoidable. Like maybe on an individual level, but it's a material fact of reality that if you rule the world, it drives you insane and you are paranoid and mentally ill. It's always been the case for all time. The wealthiest and most powerful people for all of recorded human history have been neurotic balls of shit. The idea of like in the last moment of like in the last breath of civilization, I will flee and take my riches to an island where I will spend out the rest of my days. This has been like a fail-safe plan for every crackpot dictator, emperor, king, whatever, forever. They've always been like this, you know? It's not even necessarily an indictment of their like personal morality or intelligence. It's just a consequence of that level of inequality. No, I don't care what BlackRock has to say. Grandpa's crashing out. Am I the grandpa in this analogy? Marx wrote on this in his economic and philosophical manuscripts, by the way. Yes, and it's completely true. Again, it is genuinely an unavoidable feature of power discrepancy, at least at a very high level. It cannot be avoided. If anything, you just have to work around it. There are case studies on how a lot of billionaires are suffering from mental illness. Have you seen them tweet? The only reason we ever, for any length of time, thought they weren't like that was because we couldn't see them tweet. We couldn't see them tweet up until recently, and now we can see them tweet, and now we know what they're like. Elon Musk is the rich guy? To an extent, yeah. It goes deeper than that, too. The existence of people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and the like has actually eliminated the existence of people like the old Rockefellers. The problem is, now that there's no more money in the economy to hoover up through building things, selling things, offering services, the only way to get ahead is through financial schemes. You can no longer get wealthy people who are authentically invested in the well-being of the area that they live in, you know? That used to be common. Like, to an extent, wealthy people used to build fancy gardens and parks and big museums or whatever else because they didn't want people to guillotine them. But to a large extent, also, they were participants in the environment, right? Like, they were a component of the city or the state or the country that they were in. But all of that kind of relies on you offering something material, no? Something legitimate. I mean, they still exist, but they aren't as many. Look, I mean, here's an interesting exercise, okay? And genuinely, okay? Now, I don't have the numbers on this. So what I'm saying right now, it's out of pocket. Maybe I'm wrong. But what I'd be interested in, okay? Over the past 100 years, tally every decade. Take the top 500 wealthiest people in the country. How many of them are wealthy due to, in the broadest sense, the buying and selling of things, right? Services, products, whatever. How many of them are wealthy through commerce versus how many of them are wealthy through finance? Now, I understand there are blurry lines there, you know. Like, for instance, you can be the owner and CEO of a company that does build and produce things, but then you can make a lot of money because people invest. But I think there are ways to separate it. At least you can set rules and divide the lines. My guess, my assumption would be that 100 years ago, 90, 80, whatever, for the most part, wealth in the United States was driven by commerce, the exchange of goods and services. You make something, you sell something. You make a radio, you sell a radio. You make a rail iron, you sell a rail iron, a car, whatever else, services, money's moving around. I bet you right now that if we take a look right now at the S&P 500, you take a look, is this money in this person's hands the product of them selling goods or services or through financialization? Right now, probably like 100 to 1. 100 to 1 now. Like, there is no money anymore in just regular commerce. Now, you take a look at the top wealthiest people, all of them are just like, yeah, they're the CEO of this company that's valued at $50 trillion. It's all of it, and every level, all of them. And the commerce people are considered suckers. They are. And you know what? What a lot of people don't appreciate is it is legitimately, again, it's not a zero-sum game, but it's not an infinity-sum game either. The more money that's sucked out of the economy by those finance ghouls, the less money there is for people who make their money buying and selling things. Look at Walmart, man. I know that Walmart or the Dollar Tree or whatever else, these companies, very, very evil, and they do make a lot of money. But if you look at the margins that they operate on, oftentimes the margins they operate on are razor thin. Yeah, we're talking like a couple of percentage points. They're sitting there every day, their finance people are looking like there is no money. Like, you could not make a profit in this country if you ran Walmart and you sold these plastic folding chairs for $7.99 instead of for $8.49. Like, you instantly, all the numbers would start going down. Red lines on the graph, fucking the Walmart HQ, there's sirens blaring from the top. That's insane. It's also completely unsustainable. And it's not because they're so invested in providing you the best product for the lowest price, obviously. It's because there isn't that much money left. You know? The kind of people who shop at Walmart don't have enough spending money to afford higher prices, even though people in their same economic bracket 50 years ago might have been able to. Not all the bits and so-ons that they get from Walmart now, but basic things. Like, do you think that all the people who have to shop at Dollar Tree just wouldn't have been able to afford life if they had been in the same economic quartile 50, 60, 70 years ago? No. There used to be more money floating around, man. It's all in Wall Street. It's all in the You understand, right? I know I've done this speech before, but it's insane. It's like there isn't an infinite amount of money. There is a finite money supply. And you have money is removed from the economy with taxes, and it's put back into the economy when the government spends it. And the more money is held in Wall Street or in the Cayman Islands or whatever the fuck else, there's less of it to circle around and to use in commerce. And because it can't be used in commerce, you can't make money on commerce. That's why, like, you can no longer open businesses in this country, man. Like, you can franchise, or you can make something that appeals to people with excess income, the upper 10%, you know? That's what I see. If a new coffee shop opens with the $9 matchas, listen, man, it sucks that they have to sell those matchas for $9. But if they sold them for $8, they would fucking close. And if, you know what? They're still probably going to close selling them at $9. That's not their fault, man. And it's not the fucking wages. And it's not entirely the rent they pay there. It's because it used to be 50 years ago, if you had a good coffee shop, everyone in the neighborhood would buzz around it. There'd be money moving in, but there's no more fucking money. The only people in the neighborhood who can shop there are the people who can afford to, which means that they have to charge higher prices because otherwise they couldn't afford to pay the fucking rent. Nobody's opening $9 matcha shops in fucking the poorest slums of South LA. But there's nothing about matcha that means that you couldn't make it in South LA. It's just fancy grass milk coffee. You could, like, there's no reason why it has to be that way. You could open a place that sold coffee for the $1 or $2 and just coast off that. But you can't anymore because there's not enough people who would be willing to buy it. And the rents are high and all the overhead, everything, everyone's being squeezed down. Squeezed down. And when the money's squeezed out, you know, some of it every year, more and more of it gets sucked up by the financial people. More and more of it goes there, and it's never coming back. Elon Musk is not liquidating his $750 billion so that he can go visit every matcha shop in America and buy out their inventory. It is never leaving the financial district, the block, the financial money pool, and being reintroduced into regular commerce. It's just gone. Functionally, it might as well not exist, but for the, I don't know, people's retirement plans or for your investments, you know, whatever you've got in Vanguard, whatever else, which sure, I mean, we've all got our toes in the pool to an extent, but that's not the money you pay your rent with, right? It was rhetorical. It's not. Most of you probably don't pay your rent by selling some Vanguard stocks and then, not Vanguard stocks, selling stocks on Vanguard and then. I've heard Musk say that in 10 to 20 years we won't need to use money. He might be right, which is not good. Oh, it's always something, Araxio. The people still passing historic tax cuts know this stuff, right? They know they're doing exactly the opposite of helping the situation. Sure, but you know what aristocrats used to do in times of plague? They would hoard food in the castle. Doctors, they wouldn't let any of it go out there. But my lord, if all the food is in the castle and the farmers can't eat it, who will be alive to pick the food for the next harvest? They don't care. They don't care. They do not care. They are not capable of engaging. They are not rational agents. They might as well be forces of nature. How do we stop this from happening next time? Unironically, my position is you just can't have debt. That's genuinely, and when I say this, there are some people in chat who get like upset. You actually can't have debt. You cannot institutionalize a system, because if you have debt, like eventually things will be eroded to a point where it will become profitable to accrue more debt. Like there will be ways of leveraging it. And once you reach that point, the snowball starts rolling down the hill again, you know? But that's like a very big, you know, that'd be difficult to implement. Is that why usury was against rules and religions? No. The economy 2,000 years ago wasn't developed to the point where things could really reach this like financialization of the global economy point. Back then, usury was banned because it was mean. You know, like they didn't like it because it was mean to do to a person. But this isn't about, like, my problem isn't that it's mean, it's that it makes global death inevitable, right? Like it cements, it sets us down a path that we must walk to its conclusion, and it's not good. It's a very nasty path. It's very stinky. Very stinky. Yes. Oh. Headache? Only conceptually. The economy is... Do you think a deficit hawk progressive Democrat could fix this issue? No, I don't. It's a snowball rolling down a hill. The only way to stop this in the long run would be to get rid of the hill, if that makes any sense. You need to you can't just stop the snowball. You need to find a way to make it impossible for it to continue of its own volition. It is true that Bill Clinton, for a time, ran a budget surplus and actually worked on lowering the debt. But we know exactly what Bill Clinton's economic reforms did to this country. So we know that in the long run, it wouldn't have worked. You know? He was able to keep things. This is the best Democrats can offer you. They're more competent stewards of the apocalypse. Oh, they'll enable the financial schemes that guarantee economic oblivion, but they'll do it with some razzle and dazzle, and they'll do it so well that for a while you won't even notice how bad it's going to get. Oh, shit. I think that's my time. Hold on. How would you respond to the argument that a wealth tax is logistically challenging and you could more effectively tax the rich by jacking up rates on income and capital gains tax? It just wouldn't, because what about unrealized gains? Like right now, like the people like Elon Musk, they're not realizing their gains. They're accruing like enormous, unprecedented wealth for nothing. We can wealth tax them. Listen, this money's sitting on the Wall Street Exchange. We know how much money they have. We can see they're not. Elon Musk is not hiding $750 billion in assets by like buying misevaluated art. You know, we're not talking about the petty financial schemes of people whose bank accounts have 7 or 8 digits. Okay, we're talking about somebody whose bank account has 12. Wait. Yes. So we can just bring down the hammer. 12. Jesus Christ. Yeah, I've got to go. It's time for me to go be social again, I think. All right, folks. I love you all very much. If you donated to me, you fool. I warned you. No, I'm going to have to read the donos later. I'm sorry. I'm playing host to my brother right now. I love my brother dearly, and he's very cool, so I have to be, you know, ready to hang out. I'm very tired, but I'll do my best. What was I going to say? I can't be here tomorrow. I might be able to be here the day after tomorrow. And I've got good news. After that, I think my schedule's like really free for a while. Like over the past month, there's been so much stuff piling up, but I think that I think that it should be like I at the very least, like my partner and I have talked about it and we were like, oh yay, finally some time to relax, you know? I've got to go grocery shopping, man. We're out of food. Okay. Listen, if you want to know the commitment to my preparation for the New World Order, if you want to know that I'm on the same level as you, we don't even get our groceries delivered, okay? We're consistent. We drive out there and we get them ourselves like peasants. So humble, so humble. You drive? I drive so good. Anyway, if you've donated, I'll read this at the end of next stream. I gotta go. Peace! Oh, and thank you for the compliments to my thermal. It's from 316. Or wait. No, it's from Lady White, not 316. Lady White, LA-based company. Very, very good aesthetics. I wish I could show you the knit pattern on this thermal because it's beautiful. You know, it's got this really, really nice. See, can you, like, it does its job great. It really keeps me warm. All right, okay, bye.